Welcome to the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast, the show committed to helping you dismantle the destructive mindset programs keeping you stuck in the proverbial bunker of poor performance so you can get out of your own way and play to your potential. My name is Paul Salter. I'm a high-performance hypnotherapist and mindset coach with 16 years of experience helping thousands of individuals like you get unstuck. This podcast features a collection of solo episodes, conversations with scratch and plus handicap golfers, and master classes with top experts in the performance psychology space. The one goal? To help you make playing to your potential a habit. If you are the golfer who groans at the thought of stretching or scoffs at the word yoga, today's episode, today's guest, today's conversation was specifically curated for you. Because today on the podcast, I have Lauren McMillin joining me. Lauren is the founder of YoGolf Performance. She's a certified yoga instructor who specializes in helping golfers move better, feel better, and yes, play better. And in today's episode, we cover a wide range of misconceptions, myths, of course, the common excuses holding golfers, such as yourself, such as myself, back from making yoga a regular part of their movement routine. We'll explore the benefits of yoga that go beyond flexibility. We'll talk breath work, and we'll even start talking about your feet. Yes, how barefoot balance work can actually help you hit longer and straighter shots. That and so much more with today's guest, Lauren McMillin, founder of YoGolf Performance. So without further ado, please help me in welcoming Lauren to the show. Hey, Lauren, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Thanks, Paul. Great to be here.
Yeah, excited for this because as I led with it a moment before we hit record, most of you listeners, and I'm singling the vast majority of you out, are well aware that you need mobility, flexibility, or a yoga practice, but you're incredibly stubborn. You're incredibly resistant. And I know because I'm one of you. I'm speaking for you on your behalf. But fortunately, we have Lauren here to start poking holes in some of the misconceptions. And Lauren, where I'd love to begin is, what are some of those internal forms of resistance and misunderstandings about what yoga is and the benefits it can provide us on the golf course?
This is something that I run into every single day with golfers of all levels. So you're not alone. And those of you listening are certainly not alone in this. You know, I think when people picture yoga and they have this idea in their mind of what a yoga practice is, they think about what they see on the internet, which is a lot of really youthful people who are in super good shape, being really flexible and like Gumbies, for those of you that are old enough to get that reference. That and being able to stand on your head and doing all kinds of crazy party tricks. I think that's what people think about initially, or they think about like the super spiritual side of things and they think it's more of like a religion, which is like a different part of the conversation. But when people think about that, they kind of automatically rule themselves out like, oh, I'm not flexible, or I could never balance like that, or I'm too old, so why would I even try? And what I try to tell people is that at the end of the day, I'm just trying to help you move better and feel better, period. And for golfers, that's going to result in playing better.
I love that. I love your analogy too, because I instantly think it's the fit young men and women doing downward dog or cat cow over and over again. And I've dabbled in quite a bit of yoga, online yoga and in person, but I find myself struggling because I feel like there's so much to learn. There's so many poses. Like, how can we begin to ease into that and really see the underlying value that yoga provides?
Yes. And it can be very overwhelming and intimidating, especially if you don't know where to begin. And I think to that end, you know, there are so many different studios out there and gym classes and different styles of yoga that, again, if you're not sure exactly what is the right path for you, you may end up having a bad experience with it, which I know a lot of people have, and that can kind of ruin the idea of yoga for them altogether, or you don't get the benefits out of it that maybe you were looking for. I'm talking about if you wanted to try a yoga class and you immediately go to a hot studio and you nearly pass out. That might ruin your experience. Or if you go to something that just maybe you have a lingering injury and it kind of aggravates it a little bit, that could also ruin your experience and also maybe make your injury worse. But I think where it's important to begin, and this is something that I teach golfers and non-golfers, is to think about starting with mobilizing your joints. To me, that is so foundational for any movement, but especially for your golf swing. And when we approach a yoga practice and getting into yoga, that is what I want people to think about first. Just loosening up the joints, getting those foundational pieces of the body moving in a little bit more smoother quality, and then building upon it from there. As far as where to begin, I would see what studios are around. Ask if they have a beginner-friendly class, maybe even a gentle class. It doesn't have to be this intense practice in order for it to be beneficial. And that's also, I think, one of the misconceptions that people run into. Is like, oh, if I'm not burning X number of calories, if my heart rate isn't getting up, am I getting these benefits? You are, because again, you're getting that joint mobility, you're working on some flexibility, but you're also improving your balance. You're connecting with your breath. You're cultivating presence and working on your mindset, fostering recovery and relaxation. I mean, there's so many other things that in turn support all these other activities that we do.
Let's get even simpler. In your words, as succinctly as possible, how do you define yoga?
Oh, goodness. Well, I did not come up with this, but the word yoga means to yoke or to unite. And so it's this idea of uniting body, breath, spirit.
Interesting. And it's so fascinating because you're right. You just hit what I feel are like the golfer's buzzwords in the realm of physical movement. There's mobility, there's flexibility, there's a connection to your breath, which translates to presence, awareness, and the opportunity for intention and focus on the course. Yet it scares so many. Again, I'm going to stereotype and generalize. Mostly men, especially men with a meathead macho background. Again, speaking because I am one of you, so this is okay. And I love that we're able to start breaking down some of the benefits. But let's get a little more granular. Like someone is going to begin a yoga practice. How and where do they begin to see benefits in mobility, flexibility, and why does that matter to them on the golf course?
When I work with a golfer for the very first time, I do this thing, and I got this from Catherine Roberts, who I trained under. She had us do a baseline rotational assessment. Very simple, where you're just standing there, you take one arm out in front of you, and you see how far you can rotate without warming up at all. Just looking at your basic mid-back thoracic spine rotation, which is what golfers need the most when it comes to creating distance and turn in their swing. And then we go through a session, which is very functional movement based. That's what I like to focus on. And been also looking at the biomechanics of the swing. But by the end of that single session, we do that baseline assessment again. And without fail, I'm telling you, every single time, there's always a 20 to 40% increase in spinal rotation. So that just shows golfers, even if they think, oh, I could never do yoga, I'm not flexible, this isn't for me, even doing some of these very basic foundational movements that are rooted and based in a richer yoga practice, they can see those benefits and they can see, oh, I can actually do this. And they can see how it's given me more shoulder turn, which, like I just said, is going to translate to more distance, faster club head speed, more power in their swing. But they're also going to be working on moving from the ground up, strengthening the lower body, being able to strengthen the feet so that they can use the ground more effectively and efficiently, unlocking the hips, whether that's through just mobility or even being able to generate more power from the hips, since that's where the power in our swing comes from. But then also, again, connecting with the breath in a way that I think a lot of golfers could really benefit from. It's something that we're not even thinking about unless we're kind of consciously and actively thinking about it. The breath is such a powerful tool. But then beyond that, getting back to this idea of presence and the mindset and being able to lock in your focus, tune out external noises is something that I think as a movement modality, yoga is unique because you think about a lot of different traditional forms of exercise and fitness, and they tend to just focus on the physical aspect. But yoga really does a nice job of, again, cultivating the breath, bringing in the mindset, because how often, I mean, you know this, how often do we talk about golf being a mental sport? Yet, how often do our practices and our exercises bring in that mental piece?
Yeah. Movement modality. I like that a lot.
Yeah, kind of rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, it's a good alliteration. It's powerful. But it's interesting. That last point, I think, is so important, especially for everybody listening right now. Oftentimes, golf is such a unique sport. It's not like something like football or even tennis or even pickleball, which is very popular here in the Tampa, Florida area, where you have an outlet for aggression to release this pent-up energy. Yes, you can try to swing your driver as quickly as possible, but 9 times out of 10, for most of us, that doesn't really work out the way we intended. So how can we learn to connect with and harness that energy? So that last part is so important. So often we make mistakes training specifically for golf, whether it's a background rooted in the weight room. There's a lack of transferability. And I can't speak enough about having a golf specific physical resistance training routine. But within that routine, there absolutely needs to be elements of mobility, flexibility, injury prevention, mindfulness, connecting to your breath, which as a movement modality, my new favorite term, yoga encompasses and includes all of that. And I would love to learn a little bit more about not only some of the value, but the how. How does yoga specifically begin incorporating breath work and training us to connect our movement to our breath so that we can leverage the power of that movement breath connection?
Really good question. In what we would call a vinyasa flow, this is one style of yoga. What that means and what that refers to is exactly that, connecting breath with movement. And usually the teacher will cue, it's one breath per movement. So you're taking a movement on an inhale. You're doing something else as you exhale. You're reaching up as you breathe in. You contract, maybe you twist as you breathe out. So there's this very focused, intentional incorporation of the breath. And then that starts to bleed over into other areas so that when you are standing over a golf ball, you know to exhale and release all that physical tension. You translate to your brain and to your nervous system that, hey, we're not in a fight or flight stance. We can relax. And that carries over into, like I said, tension release, but also helping us be more present, helping us with things like swing tempo. And so yoga just does a really, really great job of placing a strong emphasis on the breath. And within that, so there are many different branches of yoga. People just think about the physical aspect of it. And of course, we've talked about like the mindset and mindfulness and also the breath. But there are these other areas like getting into ethics and how you present yourself in the world. But one of those is pranayama, or breathing exercises in particular. So if you go to a class, there may be a whole section of the class, if we want to put it that way, dedicated to breathing practices. And those can run the gamut of breathing exercises that can help warm up your body, prep your nervous system. These are a lot of things that I like to teach to golfers like before they go out on the course. And then on the flip side, there are breathing exercises that can help you relax and help you fall asleep and help you calm the nervous system and kind of bring the heart rate down a little bit. So, like I said, it's not just a matter of making sure you're breathing, although it is pretty funny. Pretty much every class I teach and when I work with golfers, I will constantly remind them to breathe and just keep breathing. Make sure you're breathing. And then they're like, I am holding my breath so much. And it's true, especially when we're trying these new movements, or again, if we're in a tough shot or we're in a new position, we tend to hold the breath without realizing it. And that translates, again, to the body that we're stressed. And it's even if we're not feeling stressed in the moment, it's telling our nervous system something else entirely. So yoga just does a really nice job of putting the breath at the forefront instead of as an afterthought.
I love that because it's so powerful, like that oxygen deprivation. You're right. It sends a massive stress signal to your nervous system. It's what influences the perpetual feeling of tightness and tension, standing over the ball or otherwise, that lingers between holes, between shots. And then, of course, you add in a few bad shots. You don't have the emotional resiliency or toolkit to manage those emotions. It just continues to add up very quickly. And then it's a bad, destructive round, a few blow up holes, and on it goes. So I love that yoga has such an emphasis on the breath. Now, I'm curious for the person listening who has no experience with yoga, who is starting to understand it's kind of everything wrapped in one that I need to become a better golfer, more fluid, more mobile, more fit, more strong. Where do they begin?
Well, I would say come to me.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's kind of why I built what I built, which is an online yoga studio for golfers. When golfers start to realize, like you just said, that, oh, I could really benefit from this. Not only that, but I could actually do this. They're intimidated because they don't want to go to a studio. They don't want to go to a gym because they think, I don't want to embarrass myself. Everybody's going to know that I'm a pure beginner and it's not in my schedule. I don't have time for it. I don't have time to carve out an hour. And to that, I hear you. Yes. Which is why I've kind of taken all of these excuses, if we will, and eliminated them. So the online studio, the whole purpose of it is to meet golfers where they are. So you could be at home. You could be in your office. You can be wherever. The other thing about it is a lot of the classes on there are 10 to 20 minutes. Some are as short as 5. Because what I like to harp more than anything is that it's about consistency and it's about adding it into your life and into your week. Even if it's in shorter snippets, you're going to get more out of that than just doing 1 hour a week. And that's it. So I think people get intimidated, and I feel this way about practicing golf. Like I'll make excuses and think like, oh, I don't have time to go out and play a 4-hour round. Well, I don't have to do that. I can go out and putt for 15 minutes and I've gotten that dose of golf and I've gotten my practice in and I'm training my body and my brain to build that muscle memory. Same thing with yoga, adding it in throughout your day in any way that you can. So again, if somebody doesn't know where to begin and they're looking to start, I encourage them to reach out to me, use me as a resource. I would also say, though, that it's important if they're new to fitness, if they're new to yoga, to connect with a teacher or a coach or whomever, to do an assessment and to do an evaluation. That's something that to me is so important, because if somebody goes to a yoga class and the teacher isn't taking the time to, at the very least, ask like, what kind of injuries are you dealing with or have you dealt with in the past? What else do you have going on? X, Y, Z. Then they are doing themselves a disservice. And again, if there is a lingering injury, they might accidentally do something that makes it worse, or they're just not getting the maximum benefit that they could out of it. So to answer your question with a very long answer, check out the website. I would go online. Look, there's so much online now. But again, within that, there is so much value in connecting with somebody, whether it's over FaceTime or Zoom or even in person, to make sure that, hey, here's how my body is moving. Let's find where my successes are right now. Let's find my limitations and determine a path forward to see like, hey, this style of yoga is going to really benefit you. This one, maybe not so much.
What role does yoga play in injury prevention and recovery for golfers?
Ooh, that's good. Yoga is an incredible way to help prevent injury and to help promote recovery in golfers. For one, it goes back to that baseline joint mobility. If a golfer, and I see this a lot in male golfers who are interested in getting into shape for golf, and they take the approach of hitting the weight rack or doing intense exercises to build mass quickly and to get more power. Sure, strength training is awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. However, if they go into it without the right amount of mobility in their joints to safely and effectively perform those higher intensity movements, that's when they come across injuries and aches and pains or plateaus in their training. So first and foremost, yoga helps make sure that we have that foundational movement good to go so that we avoid injury in the other exercises that we do. There's also, of course, I keep talking about mobility, but flexibility is right there with it. Your muscles are going to be loose. The fascia is going to be loose. You're far less likely to deal with that onset soreness that comes after a round, or even the next day after you've played a round of golf. You find that you're able to bounce back quicker. In terms of recovery, I think that recovery is something that if golfers neglect warm-ups, they more so neglect recovery. And when you're at the end of a round, like I get it, you're tired. You're like, that's the last thing I want to do is like hop on the ground and do some stretches, like totally. But even taking a few moments to help stretch out your muscles, again, to release that tension, to let go of any energy that's remaining in you, again, it's going to help you not be as sore the next day. But B, it's going to help you sleep a lot better. And I think that's an underrated part of a yoga practice that when I start working with golfers, yes, they get all these different benefits, but oftentimes they'll be like, I slept so well after our session. And you think about the importance of sleep and what that has to do with recovery, injury prevention, being able to bounce back faster, supporting all the systems of our bodies. And that's when we get into some of the more like relaxing, the gentler side of a yoga practice and different things like that.
Elaborate on the sleep benefit. That's interesting. I mean, surface level, it makes sense, but what in your experience and your education, like what about especially a post-round yoga session or just making it a staple of your routine provides added benefit to sleep quality?
Something that I love to teach golfers is a pose called legs up the wall or waterfall pose. And this is just one example, but it's where, I mean, you can picture it. You're lying on the ground, hips are against a wall, your legs are going up the wall, and that's all there is to it. What this is doing, though, is it's allowing an opportunity for gravity to be reversed, or at least as far as it pertains to the body. Because when you're walking 18 holes, you're upright. You may be getting a lot of circulation going down into the feet. You may find that your ankles swell, things get achy, things like that. When we take time to then very gently flip everything and go upside down, or what we call an inversion in yoga, that allows a very gentle way for the blood and the lymph and all of that to very gently kind of drain out of the feet and the ankles. And in turn, it allows the heart to not have to work quite so hard to get everything all the way back to the heart. So it's supporting the circulatory system. It's calming the nervous system because the body is like taking a big old exhale and just like we can release here. But that's also going to translate to deeper and more relaxing sleep. Usually legs at the wall is often, I don't know if prescribed is the right word, but recommended for things like insomnia. It's just very, very calming to the system. So things like that. There are these a lot of it comes down to, there's restorative yoga is the overall term, but sometimes you get into yin yoga, which is just longer holds for the joints. But there are these intentional positions. So whether it's something like that, whether it's a spinal twist, whether it is a gentle supported heart opener where you're stretching gently across the chest to undo any rounding in the spine, or my favorites are any hip openers to help physically release tension and tightness in the hips. It's going to allow our bodies to pretty much literally release anything that they do not need. And then when we let go of that, that's when our bodies can relax and rest and recover far more effectively.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I will be trying that before sleep tonight. Okay, cool. So building off of that, walk us through. I'm going to create a hypothetical example. It is the middle-aged golfer. It is the middle-aged man golfer. He might be in the gym a couple times a week and he works hard hours. He's likely got some kiddos he's chasing around as well. A pre-round, whether we call it yoga practice or pre-round recommended and prescribed by Lauren warm-up, what does that consist of? What does it look like? What boxes, maybe is the better phrase, do we need to check to warm up the right areas of our body to be able to perform to our potential?
First, we're going to breathe. But we're not going to breathe in just any old way. What I love to teach golfers is rib cage breathing. The fancier term is diaphragmatic breathing. But if you just take your hands and place them on your ribs, so right hand over the right ribs, left hand over the left, and you start to breathe in and out of your nose, focusing on breathing into the ribs. So with every breath in, the ribs are expanding from east to west. It's like you're trying to create more space between each rib. And then with every out breath, the ribs gently knit back together. Now, what this is doing, it's helping us use our diaphragm more effectively. And that's our prime breathing muscle. So it's right below the ribs. When we're breathing this way, it's going to help our bodies warm up. Literally, it's helping us increase the core body temperature. Right below the diaphragm, or right in that same area, is where we're able to support the lymphatic system, the circulatory system. Everything's kind of centrally hubbed in there. But it's also allowing us to relax these accessory muscles that we use most often. Most of us tend to breathe into the upper part of the chest and into the shoulders. But when we do that, we're using our neck muscles to a degree that like, yes, they do a great job, but sometimes that's when they get really, really tense because they're doing more than they should. So it allows that to relax and it allows us to breathe far more deeper into the body. So we're going to start with some ribcage breathing. The other cool thing about ribcage breathing is that if you think about like when you place your hands on either side of your ribs, you're also placing your hands against your obliques. And those are the abdominals on the sides of the waist. So when we breathe into that, it's helping loosen up the obliques a little bit more, which are some of the major muscles when it comes to creating turn in the swing. So you're loosening up your body almost without even trying. Anyway, we're going to breathe there. Then we're going to move through, I would say, 3 to 5 movements. It's very simple. Again, this is not something that people need to overthink or think that it's going to require adding 30 minutes to your routine. But we want to make sure that we're moving our body through all 3 planes of motion. So what I mean by that is moving your body forward and backward, side to side, and through rotation. And thinking about addressing kind of all the major joints in that way. So for me, and for the golfers I work with, that's going to look like stepping into a side lunge, adding a rotation with the shoulders, and then stepping back. So we're targeting a lot of different areas at once and getting a lot of bang for our buck. So when we do something like that, you step out, rotate, twist, come back. We're building strength from the ground up. We're opening through the hips. We're opening through the spine. Our head is forward. And even though it's not turning, we are getting some cervical rotation there and then coming back. And you're moving at a clip that it's not, oh, this is actually a really good point too. All of these movements are dynamic and you're moving not at a super fast pace, but you are moving, and it's not just static stretching, which is what a lot of golfers tend to do.
Yeah.
I would save the static stretching for after a round. So we're breathing, we're moving in all 3 planes of motion. And by the way, I have so many warm-ups on my website, and if people are interested in specific movements, reach out to me. And then the other thing is we're going to activate the feet, and we're going to get grounded through the feet. And this is an area that I get super jazzed about because people, when I talk to any athletes, I'll ask them, oh, how are you training your feet? And they're like, what are you talking about?
That's how I feel right now. So please keep going.
How much time do you have? Okay. So everything in our bodies starts from the ground up, and the golf swing is no exception. Like if you look at the kinematic sequence of the golf swing and kind of the order of how things in the body are moving, it starts in the feet, right? You start in the feet, it moves up through the knees, the hips, trunk, shoulders, hand, wrist, or wrist, hand, club. And then that same sequence, ideally, is what should happen as you move through the downswing and beyond. And when we don't do that, that's when we run into common swing characteristics like over the top, casting, early extension, things get out of whack. So to help us support that order of events through the body, we want to work from the ground up. Our feet are what connect us to the earth. And any movement that follows is either supported by it is supported by the feet. But if the feet are not mobile enough, if they're not strong enough, anything else is not going to be working as efficiently as it could be. And if you think about it, like in golf, there's a term, or that instructors will say, to use the ground. The only way we can really use the ground is by engaging through the feet.
Like I almost hear like if you have a power potential, this is hypothetical,
yes,
of 100, but you only can use 75 of it from your feet, you get that lag and dissipating power throughout the rest of your swing. So therefore there's unrealized gains or missed opportunity waiting for us.
Exactly. Yes. So when we don't take time to train our feet, and by that, I'm not saying like lift weights with our feet. No, I mean like going barefoot a little more often, or rolling your foot on a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball to loosen up the fascia, or doing toe curls, like against, like picking up a cloth with your toes to strengthen the feet. There are, what's the number? I think there are more than 200,000 mechanoreceptors on the soles of our feet. And those are essentially signals that when we take a step, I give the analogy of, when you step on a Lego, how like that instantly tells your brain that you're in danger and that you should probably reroute. versus like if you're walking on warm sand, it's a much more pleasant experience. So that's our body's way of telling us like, hey, we're in a safe environment, or no, we're not. When we cut off that line of communication by always wearing socks and always wearing shoes, it kind of makes that frequency or that signal between our feet and our brain a little fuzzier. So our brain is not fully getting clear information about our surroundings and our environment. And that leads into, again, another conversation about like, how is our nervous system responding to all of this? Yeah. Anyway, if golfers take away anything from this conversation, I would say start working your feet a little bit more. And that doesn't mean forgoing shoes altogether. Shoes are very important, but taking time to, like I said, go barefoot a little more often, even if it's just around your house. If you're able to walk out into your yard, it is going to be so beneficial. And it sounds so simple. Like, how could that, like, is that just going to change everything? In a sense, yes, because you're also going to be improving your balance, which simply from an aging standpoint is going to help us tremendously. But that's going to help us have a more stable and controlled golf swing. It's going to help you shift your weight more effectively and efficiently. Yeah. I feel like I went off on a tangent there.
No, let me ask you this then. So do you recommend some form of swing training and practice in bare feet as well? Chipping, full swing, or otherwise?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Sam Snead, the only time he wore shoes was in tournament play.
Fascinating. Yeah, I mean, because I do some of that on a mat at home with the intention of I have 10 minutes and I don't want to put my shoes on. Not for any of these good reasons, but I mean, I understand. I love what you're saying. It makes total sense to me. So that's a fascinating area of practice and deliberate training I have not yet experienced or really put further thought to. So you've got my wheels spinning.
Oh, yes. Again, I'm like, we could go off on a whole different conversation about this. But all that to say, when we take a little bit of time to just warm up the feet, whether that is like standing on a balance mat and really intentionally feeling that connection into the ground, you start to feel, it's very subtle, but you can feel all the little muscles up the leg start to fire and they warm up. And it's working from the ground up in that regard. It's more time efficient for one thing, but it is such an awesome way to make sure that the body is functioning the way that it's meant to.
So now flip it. We've just completed 18 holes. We've played phenomenally because we've integrated everything you've shared so far. What is I'm going to cap it 5, maybe 10 minutes or less cool down approach we can take to jumpstart the recovery process and regenerate our muscles so that we can sleep well and play better the next day?
Yes. I think about what are the most common injuries or aches and pains that golfers experience. And these are kind of the areas that I encourage people to focus on, especially after a round. So the top 3 injuries tend to be lower back, shoulders, wrists. So I'm going to encourage people to practice movements and stretches that gently nourish those areas. So for the lower back, we're looking at, and with that, we're looking at not only those pain points or those specific areas, but we're looking at what is surrounding them. Because yes, you might be feeling aching in your lower back, but it could be coming from your hips, or it could be coming from your mid back. So we want to look at what's above, what's below, what's around it. So we certainly want to open up the hips, whether that's through, and a lot of this doesn't even require getting on the ground. So you could be standing at your golf cart. You could be at your car. You could be using a golf club. A standing figure 4 stretch, taking a moment to get a nice deep opening for the hips. And after you've played 18, you'll feel it. It should feel really juicy and nice. Doing something like that, because that's going to help open your hips. It's also going to help gently stretch out the lower back. Loosening up through the shoulders. Again, they might feel incredibly loose already after you've been swinging your golf club 100 plus times out there. But taking a little bit of time just to make sure that we're moving smoothly, maybe stretching the biceps, or not the biceps, the deltoid. I mean, if you can stretch your biceps, go for it. Stretching through the neck, just kind of addressing any of these areas where you either regularly experience kind of some lingering aches and pains or anticipate like, oh, I feel like this is going to be tight tomorrow, just to kind of get ahead of it. And then beyond that, I would say I'm a big fan of a foam roller. and taking time to foam roll and loosening up the fascia. And then breathing. This time we're not going to be doing some of the more warm-up centric ribcage breathing, but this is where we'll do more of a relaxing breath or breathing deeper into the belly. And it's kind of telling our nervous systems, like, it's time to relax. Like, job well done. You did it. Relax now. And then, like I talked about earlier, something like legs up the wall. This is more like when you get home. But if you want to do this out on the course, go for it. You might get some looks, but I bet you'll recover faster than the other golfers. Things like that. So it's a much more restorative, relaxed, easy approach on the body as opposed to the flip side. So to summarize that, taking time to stretch the areas that maybe you experience aches and pains, or you anticipate that you will, doing some more of the restorative, relaxing breathing, and then taking time to lift the feet above the head.
Yeah, I love that one. And really, I keep coming back to this theme throughout our conversation without really ever explicitly acknowledging it. It's intentionality. We talk about being intentional in connecting your breath with your movement, being intentional in showing up, whether it's 10 minutes or 20 minutes, to check the boxes that allow your body to feel its best, to perform its best. And we can put it under this umbrella of yoga, not yogurt. I guess I'm hungry. Yoga, this movement modality that really checks so many boxes that allows the body to truly be in a primed position to play well, move the way it is needed to allow you to play well, and then to calm it down so they can do the same thing over and over again. And I just love hearing how yoga can encompass all that we need to allow us to play well and bounce back faster to do it again.
Yes, 100%. And especially when you are in the middle of a round or when you are in tournament play, you have access to your mindset and your breath. You do not always have your fitness trainer or your coach or your gym equipment as part of your bag of clubs, but you do have the breath. So the more regularly and more consistently we practice intentionally breathing, intentionally paying attention to our thoughts and how we are responding in any situation. That's one of the beautiful things about yoga from a mental perspective, is that when we get into these positions and these poses that are uncomfortable or new or challenging, it trains your brain in a way that you kind of embrace that newness. You embrace that uncomfortable position. You embrace the challenge of it and you learn how to breathe through it. And that can show up and translate so beautifully and seamlessly onto the golf course.
I love that, because I was literally about to say something similar. Like, these are micro exposures to uncomfortable situations. You learn how to lean into, how to breathe into the temporary discomfort to find more comfort. And you're right, it's so transferable. I mean, everybody talks about all the health benefits of the ice bath. Like, the physical benefits are fantastic, but like, really, it's just a matter of like, this is fucking hard and it's cold and I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to learn to find my breath. And that resiliency that you cultivate in these micro moments, especially some of these incredibly uncomfortable, challenging yoga poses and routines, it transfers into the business, into your conversation and communication with your spouse, your children, as well as on the golf course. So I'm so happy you shared that.
Yes, absolutely.
So here's an interesting question. What does the audience need to hear that we haven't discussed as a source of inspiration, or maybe just a firm kick in the ass to give yoga a chance, to really open their mind, to begin to ease into finding a yoga practice that meets them where they're at, that will allow them to play to their potential?
Drop all of the excuses. I have heard every excuse under the sun as far as why you cannot do yoga. I get it. I hear you. I respect it. And I do not care.
I love that. Drop the excuses and indulge the golf-specific movement modality that yoga is.
Yes. Yes.
I almost wonder, and you can speak to this more than I feel like yoga might even carry a little bit of a stigma, a connotation, because it is so misunderstood. It's so widely defined depending on who you're talking to, that if you're someone listening who was just raised in the weight room, it probably still seems a bit foreign, but hopefully not after this conversation.
Correct. And usually, when I reach out to golf clubs about coming out there, either speaking or teaching a workshop or offering my services, they will either say, oh, yes, we have a yoga program for the women. Or the golfer will be like, oh yeah, my wife would love to do that. And I'm like, that's awesome. Let's get you in there too. So letting go of these preconceived notions and even just being open, just being open. Something I try to communicate with golfers that I think can help put it into perspective. Listen, we were all beginner golfers at some point. It is okay to be a beginner in this as well. And the other thing is that especially as golfers get older, not just golfers, but people in general, our bodies are kind of operate on a use it or lose it basis. So the longer you delay working on your mobility, even from even just managing things like arthritis or just common aches and pains as we get older, like beyond the golf course, the longer we delay working on mobility, nourishing our joints, stretching our muscles, connecting to the breath, the harder it's going to be in the long run. So give it a try.
I love that. On that note, where can listeners go to connect with you, learn from you, and to work with you?
Absolutely. Great question. So my website is YoGolfPerformance.com, and that is where they will find, there is a free 7-day trial. They will find hundreds of golf-specific yoga classes, and I'm talking about classes based off of length. So again, some as short as 5 minutes. There are some that are an hour long, but a lot of them are on the shorter side based on level. So pure beginner all the way up to more practitioned or people that practice yoga a lot. And then also dealing with things like common swing characteristics or common injuries, warm-ups, cool-downs. It's all there. Beyond that, I love working with people one-on-one. I heavily encourage that folks reach out to me, even if it's just to have a conversation about what classes you want to try. But I'm also happy to offer different assessments, different evaluations, and then one-on-one training beyond that. So I would say go to YoGolfPerformance.com and find me there.
I love that. This has been such an insightful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing everything with us.
Absolutely. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Well, that and feet, but we'll vote on that later. What's your absolute favorite? I never thought I'd be having a conversation about feet on the podcast, but here we are.
Here we are. Now you know.
Awesome, Lauren. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. For those of you listening, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. I know that you found immense value and some of your outdated beliefs were challenged. There's an opportunity to shift your perspective on this movement modality, also known as yoga, that will truly help your body be primed and ready to allow you to play to your potential. Lauren has shared a wealth of knowledge today, so go connect with her on social media, check out her website, and get moving with intention. And if you haven't done so already, it takes 30 seconds to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to today's conversation. Thank you again for listening. Have a great rest of your week. Hit them straight this weekend, and we'll catch you in the next episode.